Most people over 60 are told the same thing again and again. Drink bone broth, eat more soup, take collagen, and somehow your muscles will stop wasting away. But what if I told you that bone broth is not the real solution? That it's actually missing the one critical signal your muscles desperately need, and that there is one simple, overlooked food that can rebuild muscle faster, stronger, and more completely even after 60, 70, or 80 years of age? What if the reason sarcopenia keeps winning is not your age, not your genetics, and not even your exercise routine, but the fact that you've been feeding your body the wrong rebuilding material at the wrong time? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly why muscle loss accelerates after 60, why most common advice quietly fails, and how one specific food can flip the switch back on and tell your body to rebuild again. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth that nobody likes to say out loud. Muscle loss with aging is not just about getting older. It's not simply a slow, inevitable fading. It's a biological shutdown process, and it happens when your body stops receiving clear signals that muscle is still needed. After 60, the body becomes far more conservative. It doesn't waste energy on tissue it believes you no longer require. If you don't send strong enough messages through movement, nutrition, and hormones, your body quietly says, "We don't need this anymore," and muscle tissue is broken down and recycled. This is sarcopenia, and it doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in year by year. Your grip weakens, your legs feel less powerful, balance becomes unstable. Getting up from a chair takes effort. And what most people don't realize is that once muscle loss passes a certain point, it starts affecting everything else, from blood sugar control to bone strength to immune resilience. This is why reversing sarcopenia is not about vanity. It's about independence, longevity, and quality of life. Now, here's where bone broth enters the conversation. Bone broth is often praised for collagen, minerals, and gut health. And to be fair, it does have its place. It can be soothing, nourishing, and supportive. But bone broth does not provide a strong enough anabolic signal to rebuild muscle. Collagen is not a complete protein. It is low in essential amino acids, especially leucine, which is the key amino acid that turns on muscle protein synthesis. Think of leucine as the ignition key. Without enough of it, the engine simply doesn't start. You can drink bone broth all day long, but if leucine doesn't reach a certain threshold, your muscles will not get the message to rebuild. This is one of the biggest reasons people feel like they're doing everything right and still getting weaker. As we age, something called anabolic resistance develops. This means that older muscles are less sensitive to protein signals than younger muscles. A 20-year-old can eat a modest amount of protein and stimulate muscle growth. A 65-year-old often needs a stronger, more concentrated signal to get the same response. This doesn't mean the body is broken. It means the volume knob has been turned down, and you have to turn it back up deliberately. And this is exactly where the one food I want to talk about becomes so powerful. The food is not exotic, not expensive, and not a supplement. It is a whole food that humans have relied on for centuries, and it contains one of the highest natural concentrations of leucine and complete bioavailable protein. That food is eggs, specifically whole eggs, with a special emphasis on the yolk. And before you dismiss this because you've heard eggs mentioned before, I want you to listen carefully, because most people misunderstand why eggs are so effective and how to use them correctly. The egg is not just protein, it is a complete biological package designed to create life. That means it contains all essential amino acids in the correct ratios: healthy fats, fat-soluble vitamins, choline for muscle and nerve signaling, and natural cholesterol that supports hormone production. The yolk is where much of the magic happens. For decades, people were told to fear the yolk, to eat egg whites only, to avoid cholesterol. That advice has caused enormous harm, especially for older adults. Cholesterol is not the enemy. Cholesterol is a building block for hormones like testosterone and estrogen, both of which play critical roles in muscle maintenance. When older adults avoid cholesterol completely, they often starve their hormone system of raw material. What makes eggs especially powerful for sarcopenia is their leucine content. One large egg contains about half a gram of leucine. When you consume multiple eggs in one meal, you can reach the leucine threshold needed to trigger muscle protein synthesis. This threshold effect is crucial. It's not about nibbling protein all day long. It's about sending a clear, strong signal at least once or twice a day that muscle is still required. Eggs do this exceptionally well. But there's more to the story. Muscle rebuilding does not happen in isolation. It requires energy, micronutrients, and a supportive metabolic environment. Eggs provide B vitamins that help convert food into energy. They provide selenium and zinc, which support immune function and muscle repair. They provide vitamin D, especially if the eggs come from pasture-raised hens, which plays a role in muscle strength and balance. This is why people who regularly eat eggs often notice better stamina, clearer thinking, and improved physical confidence over time. Now let's talk about why eggs outperform bone broth when it comes to muscle rebuilding. Bone broth is rich in glycine and proline, which are great for connective tissue, joints, and skin. But muscle tissue requires a different amino acid profile. It needs leucine, isoleucine, and valine, known as branched chain amino acids. Eggs provide these in abundance. Bone broth simply doesn't. So while bone broth can support joints and digestion, it cannot by itself reverse sarcopenia. This is why relying on it alone often leads to disappointment. Another critical factor is digestibility. As we age, stomach acid often decreases. This can make it harder to digest dense proteins like red meat. Eggs are relatively easy to digest, especially when cooked gently. Soft-boiled, poached, or lightly scrambled eggs are often well tolerated, even by people with sensitive digestion. This means the amino acids actually get absorbed and used rather than passing through unused. Now, here's something very important. Eating eggs alone is not enough if the body does not believe muscle is needed. This is where movement comes in. You do not need intense gym workouts. You do not need to lift heavy weights if that feels unsafe. But you do need resistance of some kind. Muscles are incredibly logical. They respond to demand. Simple bodyweight exercises, chair squats, wall push-ups, resistance bands, or even carrying groceries can provide enough stimulus when done consistently. When you combine resistance with a leucine-rich meal like eggs, the effect is amplified. The muscle receives the message, we need this tissue. Keep it, rebuild it. Timing also matters. Many older adults eat most of their protein at dinner and very little at breakfast. This is a missed opportunity. After an overnight fast, the body is in a slightly catabolic state, meaning it is breaking down tissue for energy. Providing protein in the morning, especially eggs, helps shift the body back into a rebuilding mode early in the day. A breakfast with 2 or 3 whole eggs can set the tone for muscle preservation all day long. There is also a psychological component that shouldn't be ignored. Muscle loss often leads to fear of movement. People become cautious, then sedentary, then weaker. This creates a downward spiral. When people begin to feel stronger again, even slightly, confidence returns. They move more. They engage more. This positive feedback loop is just as important as the biochemical one. Eggs, by supporting real physical strength, can help restart this cycle. Now let's address some common concerns. What about cholesterol? For most people, dietary cholesterol has a minimal impact on blood cholesterol. The body regulates cholesterol production based on intake. When you eat cholesterol, your liver often makes less. What matters far more is inflammation, insulin resistance, and overall metabolic health. Eggs, especially when eaten as part of a whole food diet, do not cause heart disease. In fact, they often improve markers of satiety and blood sugar control. What about protein quantity? Older adults often need more protein than younger adults, not less. This does not mean excessive amounts. It means adequate, well-distributed intake. Eggs make this easier because they pack a lot of nutrition into a small volume. For someone with a reduced appetite, this is incredibly valuable. Another mistake people make is relying too heavily on plant-based proteins alone. While plant foods are healthy and important, many plant proteins are incomplete or lower in leucine. This means you have to eat much larger volumes to get the same muscle-building signal. For some older adults, this is simply not practical. Eggs provide efficiency. They deliver what the muscle needs without overwhelming the digestive system. It's also important to talk about insulin sensitivity. Muscle is one of the primary places where glucose is stored. When muscle mass declines, blood sugar control worsens. This is why sarcopenia is closely linked to type 2 diabetes. By rebuilding muscle, you improve insulin sensitivity, reduce blood sugar spikes, and support metabolic health. Eggs are low in carbohydrates and do not spike blood sugar, making them an excellent choice for stabilizing energy levels. Now let's be clear about expectations. Muscle rebuilding after 60 is slower than in youth, but it is absolutely possible. Studies and real-world experience show that even people in their 80s and 90s can gain strength and muscle mass when the right signals are present. The body does not forget how to rebuild. It simply needs to be reminded. Consistency is the secret. One egg meal will not reverse years of muscle loss. But regular daily intake, combined with gentle resistance, creates change over time. Weeks turn into months. Small improvements add up. Standing becomes easier. Walking feels steadier. Falls become less likely. Independence increases. Let's also touch on sleep, because muscle repair happens during rest. Adequate protein during the day supports overnight rebuilding. Magnesium-rich foods, sunlight exposure, and a regular sleep schedule all support this process. Eggs contribute indirectly by providing nutrients that support nervous system function and relaxation. Another overlooked aspect is inflammation. Chronic low-grade inflammation accelerates muscle breakdown. Highly processed foods, excess sugar, and refined oils contribute to this. Eggs, when sourced well and cooked simply, do not. They are anti-inflammatory for many people and can replace more damaging breakfast options like sugary cereals or refined bread. So when you hear someone say, just drink bone broth, understand that they are offering part of the picture, not the whole solution. Bone broth can be supportive, but it cannot carry the full weight of muscle rebuilding. Eggs can. They speak the language your muscles understand. Imagine muscle as a house under renovation. Bone broth provides some of the nails and glue. Eggs provide the bricks, the beams, and the blueprint. Without those, the house cannot be rebuilt, no matter how much glue you use. As we bring this together, remember that aging does not mean surrender. Sarcopenia is not a life sentence. It is a signal that the body needs clearer instructions. One of the simplest and most effective ways to send that message is through whole eggs, eaten regularly, combined with gentle resistance and consistent movement. To summarize, muscle loss after 60 is driven by reduced anabolic signaling, not just age. Bone broth alone does not provide the amino acids needed to rebuild muscle. Whole eggs deliver complete protein, leucine, healthy fats, and critical nutrients that turn muscle rebuilding back on. When paired with simple resistance and consistency, they can slow, stop, and even reverse sarcopenia. If you found this information valuable, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let me know in the comments what topic you want to see next.